Oh man, welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel, folks. It is Monday Mayhem. Good golly, what a day. I thought we weren't even going to have a show because, let's see, Facebook went down, Instagram went down, StreamYard went down. Name your social media, name your everything. The only thing that didn't really go down, I guess, was YouTube and then Gmail, but it was pretty sketchy there for a little while, folks. Facebook crashed globally. Interestingly, right after the discussion of a whistleblower came up, and Facebook is in trouble. And I have to say that I'm not unhappy about it. I'm not a huge Facebook fan. I don't really use it a whole lot, but I know some people use it for business. It's being talked down now that Facebook is for old people. That part actually kind of cracks me up because, to a 20-year-old, 25-year-old is old. To a 25-year-old, a 30-year-old is old, right? It's incredible what is old now. It really cracks me up. Kind of confuses me. I thought old meant, let's see, if you had to walk with a cane. Even when I was young, that was old. Anyways, talking about confusion, folks. You want to talk about confusion? Who is confused around here, right? Joe Biden. Well, they didn't want to just tear him away from the podium today. So they said, hey, if anyone asks you any questions about foreign policy, just refuse to answer and tell them it would confuse the American people. Really, right? Who's confused again? Hey, Joe, President Biden, where did you go to school? Right? Did you work in mining or lumber and timber? Were you in Idaho? Where did you go to college? You went to an all, just unbelievable, folks. Joe, come on, man.
Come on, man.
I love that. Thanks again, Mr. T. Folks, Joe Biden can't stay out of the news, and the only way he gets in there is by being himself, which is great. We all need to see what a dumbass he is, but we also hear about him from his fans, like at the mandate protest outside the Department of Education in New York, where the chants were "fuck Joe Biden" and de Blasio. Folks, we're getting the "fuck Joe Biden" in NASCAR races now. We're getting it, of course, in college games, baseball games, and now I believe it was the New York Jets, right? We had it going at Soldier Stadium, home of the Bears. That's right, the Bears. They said fuck Joe Biden. We've got a mess going on here, folks, because there's a short little man who works for some very big, powerful people. And this short little man with probably oversized shoes trying to make himself feel like a big guy is continuing to push his mandates and his bullshit all over the top of us. And now we have another corporation, folks, that has decided to join in and let us know how they're going to help the world by doing this, right? ADP is a human resource company. They're a giant. I don't care. I'm not, me personally, I am not a human resource. They can fuck off, right? Human capital management, HCM. I am not one of those. I am not human capital. I am not a human resource. But ADP is, and this is what they claim to be, a huge human resource and management software company, right? Guess what it's doing? It is sorting in its employee profiles that it sends out to companies. It's sorting those who are vaxxed and those who are unvaxxed. We're creating a two-tiered system. Thank you, Dr. Doom. Thank you, Joe Biden. Thank you, Democrats. And thank you, global scum. They're going to keep pushing this, folks. It's not going to change anytime soon. It's going to be a massive struggle. a massive fight. There's going to be problem after problem after problem with this. And I did receive a personal letter today talking about somebody who had an incredibly bad reaction. Apparently, a lot more people are, shall we say, allergic to Kool-Aid than is being reported, because now I am seeing it, folks. Just me, Little John, here at the office, just a nobody. I'm not out there beating the streets and banging on doors and taking surveys and shit. No, shit is coming to me now, folks, and it is scary, very scary. I can't say a whole lot more than that, but I can say that if you're on Patreon, if you're at the Prepared Mind on Patreon, and right now you guys are live. Oh, and get your questions into Jolene, because as a paying member on Patreon, only $2 a month, paying member on Patreon, you get to ask questions live Monday through Friday. Of course, unless there's a huge cyber attack to take down YouTube and the web. Oh, good golly. It's such a fast reminder how dependent we are on this technology. But it's also incredible, folks, the response we're getting on Patreon from new people who are showing up. They're impressed with the amount of information that's available, videos, articles, everything we've got there. They're impressed with the community, how it works together. We're networking without interference. Unbelievable. That's right, folks. That's how good Patreon is. Anyways, get your questions in, and we're going to keep going here, folks. They want to bring the system down. They want to stop us. They want to silence us. They want to separate us off. They want to divide, demonize, and destroy us, the free Americans, but it's not going to be easy for them. Nope, nope. And I expect we're going to see something like this coming to America as well. Well, maybe not. Remember how we talked about in New South Wales, how the premier there, which just means governor, but it sure sounds fancy, right? Gladys Berejiklian, right? She resigned because of a corruption investigation. Yeah, she's a piece of shit. Well, she's been joined by others, folks. Her deputy premier, John Barilaro, also announced his resignation, and he's going to leave Parliament. Folks, they now have 6 officials in this absolutely corrupt pile of shit Australian government. 6 officials, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, have now resigned. Right, and that includes the premier, Her Holiness the fuck up herself, as well as her deputy fuck up. They're corrupt, folks. And these are the people making decisions about locking down, about mandates, about masks, about where you can go and what you can do, and how your rights don't matter anymore because they, in their 100% perfectly fucked up condition, mega corrupt scum, they get to make those determinations, huh? They don't have authority for that, folks. There is no emergency authority that gives them the right to destroy others. Unfucking believable in my book. That's a great way to say it. It's a great way to say it. Now, speaking of unfucking believable, you're not going to believe this shit. Are you in? Get your seatbelt, click it, strap it together, get a big slurp of that Jim Jones juice because you need it. And Dr. Fauci said nobody else that comes across the southern border really does. That's not a problem. What's going on at the southern border with Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and California, what's going on down there is not contributing to the cerveza, madness, and hysteria in this country. It is so fucking politicized that this guy, instead of saying, I'm not going to answer a question, I'm not a politician, and I don't know what's going on the southern border, he can't help but open his fucking soup cooler and say stupid shit. Right? That cock holder under his nose. He came out and said, yeah, the problem on the border has nothing to do with the COVID situation in America. Nope. So, Sheriff Brad Coe from Kinney County, Texas. He steps up to the microphone and says, "Hey, Dr. Fauci, I'm inviting you to come down to the border here and take a look." Because the sheriff there is reporting and saying that the Haitians have brought some problems in, that there is a problem. Measles and leprosy. Folks, do you know what leprosy is? Well, it's an ancient disease. It's even in the Bible. That's right. Leprosy is a disease that people get that causes them to fall apart. Literally, rot. It's kind of like a zombie. Isn't that just fucking fascinating? If there's one disease on this planet that we don't want here, I think that one, well, there's it's top 10 at least. Top 10, I don't want my fingers breaking and falling off my hand. I don't want that shit. But thank you, Haiti. Thank you, Joe Biden. Thank you, Kamala Harris. Thank you, Dr. Fauci, for making sure we believe your story and not anyone else who actually sees what's going on. Unbelievable, folks. Unbelievable. And in Colorado, Sagawatch County, right? They've adopted emergency regulations that allow warrantless entry on private property, and it prevents the sale of firearms and ammunition. Now, this is incredible. I remember, right, when King George was King George in England, and the United States of America wasn't quite yet the United States, it was the American colonies. King George, right, he had an emergency, and so he told his redcoats to lie, cheat, steal, to violate our rights, to enter people's private property, to prevent the sale of goods and the purchase of goods, to tax the shit out of people, to block the harbors, to abuse the people. Let's see, yeah, that's what King George did because he felt it was within his power. It was within his rights as the king. Here we have a chicken shit little fucked up county. The county supervisors think they have this sort of power? That they can just look at the Constitution, not just the U.S. Constitution, but the Colorado Constitution, and say, there's no Fourth and no Fifth Amendment. You have no Second Amendment. You have no First Amendment right. You have no Declaration of Independence. You have no right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, because we are a bunch of what? Fucking county supervisors. These are the type of people you can go to a local coffee shop, walk right up to them, and give the back of their head a Benny Hill. Bam! Who the fuck are you guys? You know what they're going to do, folks? They're going to cause people to get hurt. I do not incite violence. I don't glamorize it. I do have a sense of humor, though. But I don't glamorize it, and I don't incite it and encourage it. Anything dangerous or harmful. But these fucking people are encouraging stupid decisions by stupid people who think they have authority, and it's going to be met, folks. Now, Colorado is full of these leftist fuckheads. It's jam-packed full of leftards now. But there's also a lot of communities there that are extremely conservative, kind of like extreme Northern California. And this type of shit is not going to end well when someone says, well, I don't need a warrant because it's an emergency and I can come right in your house and take your guns and take your ammo and take whatever I want because we have an emergency. Unbelievable. Emergency regulations do not, folks, give any state, any local authority, or even the feds, the right to violate the Constitution and your rights. Unbelievable, folks. You know, it kind of reminds me of our good buddy. Our good buddy. I've got a quote of the day that I want to share with you. Our good buddy, because you know what? When there's an emergency, when there's a crisis, when there's a problem, that's when government should really shine, right? You bet. Never let a good crisis go to waste. It's incredible, folks. Fauci, right? These people, they create crisis. Fauci gets to attack Republicans and gets to defend everything. It's backwards. Everything is backwards now. Unbelievable. Doctor, scientist, expert in everything. I mean, really, why is Fauci running everything? I don't know if he really is or not. Get your questions in. It is Monday Mayhem. My head is already spinning, folks, with the stupid. But get this, right? You're going to love this one. This is fucking brilliant. As soon as I heard this, I thought, oh yeah, shit, it's the fan. It has hit the fan. These people have no idea what they're doing. They fuck things up coming and they fuck things up going. So in New York, fired healthcare workers, right? They're protesting the mandates that they've been told what to do. You must go get yourself a refreshing Kool-Aid. Drink that Kool-Aid. It's a Kool-Aid mandate in New York, and they're saying no, and they're burning their hospital scrubs in protest. Well, I understand protest, and I understand the idea of burning something symbolic as in I'm very angry, but the scrubs cost money. They're probably made out of some sort of polyester too, which means that as it burns, it's putting carbon in the air. So apparently they're probably now committing some sort of ecological crime. And I bet Greta Thunberg, Greta the climate Grinch, I bet she's pretty upset and saying, how dare you? So they hold an anti-vaccine mandate outside of Staten Island University Hospital. And one protester shouted, we the people are pissed off. And here's where I want to go with this. They're shouting, we will not comply. And the hospital is saying, then we will not hire you and give you a job. This is what I have to say about it. Do you remember, folks, when cerveza bug first started, every nurse, every doctor was considered a hero. Everyone was a hero, and every night for like 2 weeks, people would go out and bang their pots and pans like they're fucking retards and make a bunch of noise in support of our essential heroes. They were essential. They were so essential until, because they closed all the hospitals in fear of cerveza hysteria, that they didn't have anything for the nurses to do, so they sent nurses home. They sent doctors home. They closed off wings of hospitals, floors of hospitals, because they didn't have any elective surgery. Unless you were an extreme dire case, you couldn't come into a hospital because, the hospitals were going to be overflowing because of a pandemic. So these essential heroes, folks, found out pretty quick, some of them, that they weren't essential. And here we are over a year later, and are they essential and are they heroes? And I'm not making fun of doctors and nurses. I know doctors and nurses and healthcare workers and people who work in the hospitals. They are needed. We're all essential. But to believe that they were essential and we weren't made them into, put this thing in their head that they're better than, kind of like those law enforcement officers who think that, well, we're going to be on the government side, so we're going to win when shit hits the fan. We're going to run everything and we're going to be the boss, kind of like those left-wing fascist cops down in Australia. Now, of course, law enforcement, whether they're sheriff or police, who see eye to eye with us and understand they're servants, protect and serve, man. They're not above the law. Well, a lot of these left-wing police, they think they are above the law. And these people who think that they were heroes and essential, they never were. And the police, any of them, never are heroes. Let me tell you what they are. Maybe they're heroes to us, the people, but they're not heroes to the government in Washington, D.C., and they never were. Our military, who you and I consider to be heroes, the law enforcement that is out there making a difference in arresting drug dealers, not grandma, arresting murderers, not little housewives with no masks and no ID, the ones that are out there actually fighting crime, they're heroes, you bet. But to the government, every last one of us, including doctors and cops and firefighters and EMTs and everyone else in the military, they're disposable. I think Metallica has a song called Disposable Hero. right? It's horrifying how the government thinks of us, folks. We're human resources. I have never forgotten that. When first I heard, I thought HR, human resource. I was like, oh, I'm a fucking resource. Like you can plant a seed in the ground and a John grows up. I don't think so. Right. But we are, folks, as far as they're concerned, we are disposable. We need to come to terms with that idea that government doesn't like us. Government thinks it doesn't need us. Government hates us. Government thinks we're stupid, that they don't have to explain themselves to us, folks. They don't. They don't have to explain themselves to us. Why not? Because they're sovereign. They're essential. They're elite. And that is why we're having this SHTF episode, folks. They want to get rid of us. They want to lock us down. They want to kill our business. They want to drive more business into the big boys, you know, the essential corporations. Now, I want to show you once again how they think of themselves and what they think of us. The British Army, that is over in England, they are beginning their deliveries of fuel to ease the fuel crisis. Service station pumps were running dry across the country of England, right? Gas stations were rationing sales because there's a shortage of truck drivers. Major oil, gas suppliers are saying they don't have the product. So the army does. You telling me that there's a big tank of fuel that the army has in England that can just drive? All of a sudden they have the ability to drive. The objective, folks, the objective is to make the people, this is SHTF, this is prepping 101. As soon as I read that the army is going to deliver fuel to ease the crisis, the idea is to get the people reliant on the military and reliant on the government to replace the private sector. They want people to rely on the military and the government. They want the people to get used to seeing the military and the government taking charge of our private sector, of our private corporations. Don't worry, folks, the corporations will still get their profits. That BP fuel that used to be delivered by normal human beings in normal delivery trucks is going to be replaced by government employees in government fuel trucks. So the people get acclimated to the idea of the military being necessary to keep the world going, to keep the world going on the street. Now, here's the deal, is there really isn't enough of them. They have underplanned this in England and everywhere else. Even here in the United States, yeah, we have National Guard, but they're going to deliver fuel to every fuel station, to every city, in every county, and every, you know how many fucking counties there are in a state? There can be up to what, 50, 100 of them, depends on which state, of course. Where are they going to, where's the military going to get trucks? They have thousands and thousands of fuel trucks in every state. This is handled by the private sector, folks. But the government is trying to do this. They're trying to get the government to be recognized as the hero, as the essential element, as the only way to get things done. How does that sound to you? Does that sound like Soviet Russia? Does that sound like Nazi Germany, where we can't trust private corporations to get the job done? Just like we can't have the unions figure out how to take fucking shipping containers off of ships and put them on the fucking port and then put them on a truck and take them to the stores. All of a sudden, we just forgot how to be a country, how to deliver fuel, how to deliver fucking Twinkies, loaves of bread, chickens. We don't know how to do this anymore? Or has it all been systematically taken down, intentionally, shut down intentionally, subsidizing all the people with free money handouts? It's causing inflation, too much money out there with too little product on the shelf. Order out of chaos. Order out of chaos. You can't make order out of chaos unless you first have chaos. Oh, by the way, St. George Floyd, remember that guy? Why aren't we hearing about him in the news anymore? Well, there was a mostly peaceful protest, and the statue of St. George Floyd was vandalized in New York. He's not really a saint, folks. The man was a felon who pointed a loaded gun at a pregnant woman's stomach while he was doing a home invasion robbery to steal her car, and many other drug-related crimes. And he was involved, folks. He was engaged in committing several crimes when he was arrested. And long before he fought his way out of the squad car onto the ground claiming he couldn't breathe, he was standing up saying he couldn't breathe. St. George Floyd, folks. Unfucking believable. These are the new heroes of the left. They want you to bend the knee to a criminal. I wouldn't be surprised, folks, if he didn't commit a whole lot more crimes, and I'm not even going to take a guess. Not even going to take a guess. In Australia, folks, the people have had it. Is it going to get that bad here? I don't know. It certainly can. Australians are like 3 steps ahead of the United States of America right now. And I think it's important to note. It's important to note for you and I that they're not doing real well in Australia with their lockdowns. They're not able to maintain them. The people have had it, and they're now chanting freedom and running through the streets in Melbourne, which is more like a penal colony than a free, Western, Anglo-styled, common law rights country. People are chanting freedom, and they're attacking the police. They're now going after the police because the police in Melbourne are acting like tyrants. And they're taking their little zoom cars with their little flashing lights and their little sirens, and they're running and driving over curbs and trying to get away because people are now attacking them. And that, folks, is happening in Australia without guns. The Australian people do not have ample supplies of shotguns, rifles, and handguns. But we do have those in ample supply here in America. What happens if they push that hard in America? Australia also has terrible problems with their supply chain, folks. Their supply lines for food and other goods and services. They're shutting that country down. It is going Mad Max. And interestingly enough, and is this a coincidence, that the movie Mad Max, which was about a dystopian world system that comes to an end and slowly grinds to a halt. And there's a lot of sub-stories in the movie Mad Max. The elite dumbasses in charge of bureaucracy and government still think that they're living in a normal world as they slowly try and get things to continue to go, but they fuck it all up, right? And gangs start to take over. The police themselves become a gang. Mad Max was filmed in Australia. It was an Australian story, and we're seeing Australia play out the most draconian, it's really disheartening to see Australia do it to itself. And it's not Australia, folks, it's the government. And if that even starts to happen here in America, folks, and it could, because of liars in government at the state and federal level, liars at the county level, like we're seeing in Colorado. They have no right, folks. And the power they use is stolen. And when power is abused, it causes more abuse. Shit has hit the fan. Are you prepared? Do you have food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense? Do you have a plan, folks? Do you understand what's going on? Do you see where this is leading? Right. They're bringing down England. They're bringing down Canada. They're bringing down the United States of America. They're bringing down Australia, New Zealand. The politicians are corrupt scum. The corporate leaders like Zark Zuckerberg are complete scum. the Sorge Goros of the world. They're scum, and they're bringing everything down. And trust me, though, the rich will go to their little retreats. They'll go hide in their hills and hide in their silos. They'll go hide in New Zealand or wherever else they think is safe. And they'll hope and pray that their plans come true and that everyone just fucking dies because they took the Kool-Aid. And they can come back in a year or a year and a half or 2 years, and there'll be just enough population left for them to control and make demands of in their neo-feudal dystopian future world where they're the most brilliant and we have the Hunger Games. Oh yeah, it's all good. And there'll be Mad Max gangs out there, folks, that haven't died and won't go away. In fact, they're going to do and run things. It's fucking nasty, folks. Tribal warlords. You think they're going to respect people's rights? That's what being prepared is all about, folks. It's about what understanding we need to have. That's what this is about, having an understanding. It's what we talk here every day, and we document it every day. And I say, please, every day, share this video with friends, family, coworkers, anybody you know. Get it out there and let them make the decision for themselves. And they are, folks. They are. By sharing this video, you're helping people either make the right decisions for themselves, or you're helping people prove what a bunch of fucking idiots they are. Because they absolutely refuse to look at any real facts. I guarantee there's a bunch of people in Melbourne, Australia, who have no idea that anything is wrong, and they think they're being good citizens by sitting in their houses with their thumb right up their arse, being good little citizens and obeying their premier. Obedience is for dogs. Obedience is for government. Government should be obedient servants, not the other way around. But here we are, folks. We're at the halfway mark. It is Monday, and what a total disaster this week has already turned into. Aren't you glad you're a prepper? But now, aren't you glad you're on Patreon and you get to ask questions? We're going to go live now with your questions. Bottom half of the hour on the Daily Prepared Mind Show.
Are you ready?
Well, that was quick. While we're waiting for the first question, let me remind you folks how screwed up Australia is. I forgot to tell you all about it. There's a lieutenant general in Australia that is promising that everybody will have their first dose of Jim Jones juice mandatory, folks, that they will make sure everyone gets it by Christmas. Australia, no one gets to, nobody, folks, nobody can avoid it. Some promise. Good luck, Lieutenant General. Bring it on, bitches. All right. We got Joan with this. She says, will the Nuremberg Agreement help us any with the Jim Jones juice? With the gigantic Johnson & Johnson? Nope. No. The Nuremberg Code, the Nuremberg Agreement, the Nuremberg trials, none of that is going to save you, me, us, anybody. What it serves, though, and it does serve a purpose, it reminds us of what an abusive government is. It reminds us of what abusive governments do. It reminds us of what corporations think of us, we the people. It is a reminder of history's recording of evil. Whether you're talking about the Soviets and Chinese, or whether you're talking about the Nazis at the end of World War II, when they were held to account for their evil, for their crimes. And now we have, folks, England, Canada, the United States, Australia, New Zealand, European countries, France, Spain, Portugal, Italy, England, which I've already named, but they're Anglo, so I separate them, right? The Netherlands. They're mandating this. Well, I take that back. Not the Netherlands, Not Scandinavia, folks, not Sweden, not Norway. Apparently, those silly Vikings up there have decided they don't need the Jim Jones juice. But everyone else, folks, is being required. And the whole world is ignoring what was done by the Nazis prior to World War II and in World War II. They were all held to account, the Nazis were, for their crimes, for coercing people, for using duress, for experimenting on people without their knowledge or permission, their consent. They were coerced, folks, and it's happening again right now. And what the elites and the scum are hoping, folks, this is what they're hoping, is that everyone will just fucking die and there'll be nobody to enforce the rules against them. That's what they're hoping for. That's why they are pushing for 97, 98%. Go get them, says Biden. We need those numbers, says Fauci. We need those high numbers because we need, and now we need booster. You need booster Kool-Aid to make sure that you're going to fucking die. I'm not dying. Folks, there's times when I'm around hundreds of people. Hundreds of people. I'm sure I've been exposed. I'm sure I have immunity. I'm damn sure, folks, that I haven't had the tequila shot. That's one thing I don't take anymore is tequila. No tequila shots for me. I have not, and I'm just fine. But they want to convince me and you and everyone else like us that you better take it or else. Well, it's illegal, folks. All right, we got David. He says, when I try and tell people the dangers of the Jim Jones juice, they point to the fact that they've gotten it and their friends, family, etc., and haven't had any side effects. How to argue with this? You can't. You see, what people do is what they do. We do it. It's called confirmation bias. We want to confirm that we have made a good decision. So we'll look at facts and statistics, we'll take reports, and we'll take anecdotal information, our own belief system, and we'll build a story that we like. And I am not lying to myself or you about this. I look for information to prove my thesis correct, that it's unnecessary. And my number one fucking proof is humanity has made it from the time, apparently, that is some other microbe. We climbed out of the slime and grew legs and arms and stood up on 2 feet, right? That we became human beings. That's the Darwin thing. The other thing is, God created us, a little clay, a little mud, breathed the breath of life into us, and voila, humans. And so for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years, even in that model, we have lived through every fucking disease and every plague without the aid of Dr. Fauci. Yes, sometimes people die. More people have died because of communism and socialism than we've had die, folks. There's nowhere near the number of people dying. We have no more people have died in America than would have died otherwise. But this is they have their evidence. Well, I don't know anybody that's had a reaction. Folks, lots of people have reported reactions. Well, I felt shitty for a day or two. I felt shitty for a week. And then I was okay. I had some nervous twitches. I couldn't walk. My skin got hot. All kinds of fucking reactions. And then they're like, I got over it. I could go drink a fucking quart of bleach and I'd probably live. Wouldn't feel real good for a while. Might get the shits. I can drink a quart of motor oil. Same story. I could probably inject myself with a bunch of heroin, just like a heroin addict. And I would feel really funny for a while. Probably have some bad reactions. I could smoke crack, like the president's son, Hunter Biden. And I would probably have some sort of reaction that I would get over, and I'd be fine and claim it's not a problem. So you asked the question, how to argue with this? You can't. You can't argue with stupid. People I've talked to lately have had personal reactions, family reactions, deaths, hospitalizations, incredible complications, and they've realized that they have altered their body in such a manner that they'll never be the same, and that they're always going to be questioning what could go wrong next. As it is, it's hard enough to know what's going to go wrong next. Am I going to have a heart attack, right, etc. But one of my arguments is that if you like it so much, then why isn't it working? And why are you demanding that I take it? And additionally, if a little bit's good, why don't you go get another one? Don't just get 2, get 4. Fuck it, get 8, get 12, get 20. Just go once a week and get another shot. Do it, get a tequila shot every week. Just down it goes. If it's so good for you, if there's nothing wrong with it, if drinking tequila like that isn't toxic, right? Get the Jim Jones juice. Get some Kool-Aid and just suck it down. The more the merrier, right? If a little is good, a lot ought to be better. And see what their answer is to that. Well, no, we shouldn't do that. We should do just what Dr. Fauci says. Okay, there's your answer. You're obedient to that. That's what they're obedient to. So, in other words, some people can't be helped. Some people won't be helped. Folks, people have they've taken the tequila shot down the hatch, had a horrifying reaction, and they still go, well, I'm crippled now, but I won't say it wasn't a bad idea. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? You fucked yourself up and you still think it's a good idea. That's those people. You can't help them. People that believe what we believe, we can't be changed. Our minds won't change. Some people can be coerced, forced, tricked, pressured, all manner of duress, threatened to get them to take it, sure. But people don't want to. There's people that don't want to and aren't convinced. Those are the ones we're hoping will listen to some of the facts and some of the supporting data that's being provided by real doctors, real experts inside the world. But this is where we're going, folks. These steps have been taken. The government's not backing off. Blue Court Devil has a statement. He says, went to medical freedom rally yesterday. I guess around 6,000 showed up in Olympia, Washington. Met up with Cottage Farm also, had a great talk. That's really cool. The Cottage Farm is a subscriber here, in case everyone didn't know. Cottage Farm and, of course, Blue Court Devil. Been around a long time, supporting the channel, sharing information. I'm glad that you had 6,000 people show up at this rally. Did anything change? Did any politicians come out and address you? Did any politicians join you in the effort to tell the government in Olympia, Washington to go fuck itself? Right? Was there a positive consequence? Was there a negative consequence? Or was it just, hey, look at all these people. We don't like this shit. We're done with it. Right? These same people that are showing up to these rallies, number one, I'm really glad you're doing it. I am. I actually am. I don't expect the government to change its mind. I do expect that people will see how many are against it, share ideas, network, form groups. I mean, the question came up yesterday in Sunday Night Live from Strongback Manufacturing. He was like, how do you meet people to form a group? And go to gun clubs, gun ranges, sporting goods stores, places where conservatives hang out. And I think one of these rallies might be a great place to meet other preppers. But I think time is short, folks, to find out where this goes next. We got Steve, USMC, no tolerance. How you doing there, brother Steve, Semper Fi? He says, time for all this talk to turn into action. Today I spent the day downtown with a sign that says, enough, enough. Small step, but we need to get out and say and do something. Exactly. The protest, a part of this, needs to increase, and it is increasing, I believe, Steve. We just heard from Blue Court Devil that 6,000 people in Olympia. And Olympia, folks, is a shithole of left-wing stupidity. It's like Sacramento, California, any other blue state capital. They just get overrun with scum. Anyway, Steve, you're right. We But remember how this works. The time for action has come. It is not past. You have protest, then you have civil disobedience. When the protest doesn't change the politicians' minds, and tyrants do not change their mind. So protest, then civil disobedience, and then we get Australia, government acting violently. Is our government stupid enough to go that far? So I do believe that if you're going to protest, and I recommend you check your state and local laws, that you avoid any violence and that you make sure that you have ample, suitable personal protection in case serious violence does break out. Now, I do understand that if you get involved in anything like this, you could get the Kyle Rittenhouse treatment. That is to say that there are anti-freedom people out there who will attack you, threaten to kill you, beat the living shit out of you, and you may have to protect yourself. And then there's a good chance that you're going to be arrested, like Kyle Rittenhouse. Unbelievable, folks. It is totally unbelievable. We got the Doc Holliday, Guns and the Second Amendment, says, won't Biden have to declare martial law to prevent the election and handing over to a new president? We haven't got there yet, man. What he's referring to is in the event that the 50 United States, these 50 United States decide that they want a different president, right? If they come to that conclusion, how is it that Joe Biden could stop it? Well, yeah, martial law, definitely. The government now thinks it's supreme. We're at a very, and I'm trying not to be too hyperbolic. I'm not trying not to underplay this. I'm trying to really just talk about it honestly based on what we're seeing. The federal government, the state government, now local governments, as in the one in Colorado, are demonstrating that they think they're above the law, that the Constitution doesn't apply, that it's more like guidelines instead of actual rules. They're trying to pretend like because there's an emergency, they have special powers, that they can ignore your rights. If they can ignore one right, folks, they can ignore all of them. And if they can ignore any of the rights, your right to life can be one of those that they ignore. In other words, they can kill you. So this idea of the federal government saying, you know what, we don't believe that the states have a right to choose, to make that choice. The media has already proclaimed that President Xi Biden is president and shall remain president, and that you can't fix problems. When there's a problem with government, you can't fix it. You just ignore it and pretend everything is fine, and you don't change anything. You don't correct the errors. Well, Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, did I say Arizona? Nevada, and other states, they've detected some problems. And if they correct those problems and correct the situation, we could have a situation that invites more government mandates, more claims of emergency. And don't forget, folks, that right now, China is threatening war with Taiwan. It's not just the United States and Australia that are jacked up. It's not just the United Kingdom that can't seem to take a truckload of fuel to a service station and fill up their tanks. Right? The whole world is falling apart, including China. And when countries, nations, lose control of their economy and their system, they typically lose their shit and start a war. It happens. All right, so we got Blue Cord Devil back. He says, yes, several politicians did show up. Excellent. Only 2 of them are true conservatives, and they are both running to get rid of the 2 rhinos in our state at the federal level. That is fucking awesome. Awesome. I'm glad that they showed up. You see, folks, there are actual people with real political will, real integrity. They're out there. The odds of them winning, that's where we get, screwed up. How do you get money to run a campaign? You can get it from private individuals or corporations. What are the corporations doing these days? They're certainly not on my side or your side. They're interested in managing and protecting themselves. So they only want to give big money to candidates that want to give them big favor to make sure that those corporations benefit. So little guys, normal people who have integrity, decency, who have an ethical code that they follow, if you will, they tend to not get elected because so much money and campaign and advertising, flyers and yard signs and bumper stickers and all that shit, right? It's out there. And the people in general are not the brightest, they're not the sharpest knife in the drawer, and they tend to just choose the name that they've seen the most. And so these rhinos, they've sold out, and they'll probably get reelected. But I pray they don't, and I pray the good people of Washington figure this shit out. But either way, any way you slice this, shit has hit the fan already. The damage has been done already. The course of action set by government at the federal, state, and local levels, it's been set already. If you're in Texas, if you're in Florida, if you're in South Carolina, if you're in Missouri, if you're in South Dakota, if you're in Kentucky and Tennessee, odds are better that you'll fare well. And if you're in California, Washington, Oregon, at least on the I-5 corridor, you're going to have a lot of trouble. All right, let's move on. We got Doc Holliday Guns and 2A again. Says, John, I think Biden was in a hurry to get out of Afghanistan so they could give it to China for the minerals. What do you think? I believe that yes, Biden wanted to hand Afghanistan over to China. I'm pretty sure there was a little bit of influence there. I like that word. Let's use influence. I think the Chinese influenced the decision of Joe to get out of there because we know that General Milley, while Trump was president, was at least 2 times in communication with their generals over in China. I wonder how many other times he called and didn't talk about Trump, because the 2 times we know of, he was discussing Trump, letting the Chinese military know that they wouldn't obey any orders by Trump to follow orders to attack an enemy. What other conversations did General Milley have with China, the communists? Well, but John, they're just generals. Well, I'm afraid to say, in a communist country, typically the generals are part of the Politburo, the political bureaucracy. That is to say, if you're speaking to a military member in a communist country, high military, flag grade, you're also talking to a politician. It's true in America, our everything general up, folks, admirals, generals, they're basically politicians. That's basically what they are. They're in charge of stuff, but they're politicians. So, yeah, you bet. I'm sure that some of those 10% for the big guy donations were made, and the Chinese were quick to follow up and say, okay, General Milley, I need you to tell Biden, right, that what you say goes, and it's time for you, General Milley, to get out of Afghanistan. And by the way, we want you to leave all of the military equipment, hardware, planes, helicopters, explosives, uniform, just leave it right where it's at. Just step back, abandon ship. We want Bagram Air Base in one piece. We want all the aircraft in one. We want everything. $85 billion worth, you bet. And so they did. And they backed out. They left. They abandoned that without any plan that we could see, creating a huge humanitarian crisis. And they put a bunch of terrorists back in charge. But don't worry, folks. China knows how to work with those terrorists. They will tell them, look, you don't fuck with our operations. We're going to go mine. We're going to go harvest. We're going to take the mineral resources. And you, Taliban, you get to have all the sheeps and all the goats you can handle. Go have at it. Nobody's going to mess with you anymore. You're allowed to run this country into the ground. But do not fuck with our money-making operations. Sally Sue checks in and says, we are relocating within the next 2 years. Would love a freedom zone like Texas or Louisiana. However, hubs can't take the heat and humidity. Do you have any suggestions for cooler weather freedom zones? We had originally planned the American redoute, but much has been gone to hell in a handbasket. Okay, here we go. I don't want anyone to take any of this the wrong way. When it comes to relocating, it is very personal. Very personal. I have, as you know, family and friends in extreme Northern California. That is red zone. That is freedom zone in California for the most part, right? They don't wear masks. They don't obey the guidelines. The sheriff's departments don't enforce any of that shit way up in extreme Northern California. Anywhere in Oregon that is far away from Portland and the capital there is free Oregon. There is red Oregon all over the place. Same with the state of Washington. When you leave SeaTac and Olympia and you head and you get into the high mountains and then the high desert of Washington, it is red. It is free. You know, so if you want cooler weather, cooler climates, or more temperate climates, you can find them and have that freedom. How close are you to a big city that's likely blue? That's up to you as well. But, you know, Texas has some very comfortable climate in it, if you know where to look. Same with Louisiana. Yeah, there's humidity. I do know that there's a big difference between being in, say, in Florida, in Orlando, inland, versus being on the coasts, where you have a lot more cool weather because of the sea breeze and the moisture that is cooler coming off the oceans or the Gulf side. You know, the same with Georgia and Alabama and Mississippi. There's climate change everywhere. Now, if you go up into the Carolinas, you're going to discover that in the cooler climes of the Appalachians, right, it's not so hot. You're still going to have heat. You're still going to have humidity. That's what it comes down to. I'm glad that you're going to be able to move, to relocate. It's finding the climate you like. It's finding the culture you like. The culture. Like California culture has just gone to shit. Even up in extreme Northern California, all of the left-wing stupidity and fuckery has gotten into everyone's heads. Everything is offensive, even up there, and it just pissed me off. And I just like, fuck you, I'm out of here. You know, I don't like this shit. You know, you can't tell a woman she looks nice. That's sexual harassment. Go fuck yourself, right? Go live in San Francisco if you like those rules. Get the fuck out of my free zone. Well, culture, folks, culture. Right? There are places in the country where men are men and women are women, and there's also some places where the sheep are nervous. But yeah, it really is up to you to decide what can you tolerate and what are you willing to tolerate? How much are you willing to tolerate? Would I be willing to, and I've been to Orlando, Florida, folks, to take the kids to Disney World 12 years ago. You know, it was so hot and humid, and then it would rain fucking buckets every afternoon. It was horrifying. There's no way I could live in Florida, not under those conditions. You know, but how would I be willing to tolerate that to be free compared to California? The answer is, yeah, I probably would go live in Orlando to be free. You know, trade-offs. Vincent Boyle is checking in from Belfast, Ireland, folks. That's over in the United Kingdom on the other side of the pond. And he says, I'm starting to see videos promoting violence, folks. Thank you for reporting that, Vincent. Are we talking about videos on BitChute, videos on Rumble, videos on YouTube, videos hosted elsewhere? Where are you seeing the videos promoting violence? Now, I do believe you, and I'm not doubting you. I'm just wanting to know, where are you seeing them at? I am too seeing them. And it is, I don't think it's good to see, but there's people who are saying we need to take action. And we need to stop big government from violating our rights. Some of the violent videos I'm seeing are calling for chaos and anarchy. Those are the left-wing video types. Now, with regard to people who are normal, right down the middle, who the left call right-wing, but we're not. We just want freedom, liberty, our rights respected, law and order, justice, peace, and the American way. That's what we want. And people are infringing on our rights, and there's going to have to be a violent response. That is where I talk about violence. There will be a violent response because people are going to be acted on with violence. And people who act on others with violence understand nothing but violence. And that's what we're seeing in Australia, where the people want peace and freedom. The government is saying, well, here's some violence, try that shit. And the police start beating the fuck out of everybody. And the people are like, this isn't working. Chanting, protesting, marching, walking, being civilly disobedient is not stopping the people with batons from beating the fuck out of us, shooting us with rubber bullets because we want freedom and our rights. And so now they're beginning to respond with violence. I'm not promoting that, inciting it, glamorizing it. I'm saying that is a matter of fact, and that is the order in which things happen. You protest, you're civilly disobedient, then the government becomes violent. Then the people become violent in response to the government. And now you have civil disobedience, partisan war, partisan conflict. You have civil war comes after that. And the government will not stop. People will go to the homes of bad government employees, bad government bureaucrats, bad government elected officials. And if it doesn't stop after eliminating those problems, then buildings will be attacked, government assets will be attacked. It's going to get nasty. Where it stops, it's going to stop differently in different places. Some places, I hope it never starts. But it's going to, folks. Government never backs off. And look at the government. Look what we've shown. Look at what we've demonstrated, how corporations, human resources giant, which is a job placement corporation. Guess what? They're doing their best to promote this idea that there's two worlds here, and that one world is going to die and the other one's going to emerge full of a bunch of fucking zombie dipshit people. That's if they're lucky to live. All right, we got Bernard Shreve Jr. He says, sorry I'm late. Did John talk about this BS yet? 3-child limit and men need to get fixed at 40. No, I haven't covered that. In fact, I haven't really read into it a whole lot. That's what China had up to a few years ago. But we're going to have people like Fauci. We're going to have more experts that know everything, kind of like Biden's Secretary Becerra on mandates. The guy's a lawyer with no scientific background, and he's making decisions for the country based on a political agenda. They want and have stated again and again and again for over 100 years now that there's way too many humans on the planet, and we need to get rid of them. They're going to cull us. They're going to sterilize us. They're going to fix us. Well, Bill Gates has seen to quite a bit of that on his own. There's going to be a problem, folks. There's already been noted by doctors. It's been noted that the human reproductive system has been affected very negatively by the Kool-Aid. Negatively affected by Kool-Aid. Men and women. It's not going to get better, folks. Those aren't humans anymore. Sadly, they've been affected. They've been changed inside. And sadly, I don't know what to call them. I don't want to say transhuman. Transhumanism. They're not tied into the network. They're not communicating through a hive mind connected to the internet. They're not that. But they have been affected. Bad news. Jay Clifton checks in and says, Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, all shut down. Are people finding out they're digital poison, or is it something else? I don't know, Jay. I don't know if this was in response to the whistleblower, if this was they're installing the kill switch on these corporations. So they needed to turn off the electricity and plug their little electronic app kill switch in and then turn it back on and everything's fine. I don't know. I really have no idea. I do know, and I'm looking at it right now, I'm trying to pull up Facebook, and it appears to still be dead. Site can't be reached, as if it doesn't even fucking exist. This is why you need a communications network with your people. Text message, walkie-talkies, right? Cell phone, regular phone, ham radio. You need AM, FM world radio. You need a variety of, shall we say, communication equipment, because we don't know what these people are going to do to the system in their efforts to silence us and to make us deaf, right? You can't talk and you can't hear. It's not looking good. All right, we got the slim one says, shouldn't they want to have a group of people or say a city in each state who don't get the juice just in case something is wrong with it? Nah, we'll worry about that later. There's no problem here. We've only been testing it for the last 15, 20 years, and everything's fine. I mean, that's their attitude. Everything's fine. Folks, they know there's going to be a percentage of people that absolutely refuse the Jim Jones juice, the JJJ. They're gonna refuse it. They know that there's going to be people out there, and here's what they're going to want to do, folks. They're not going to turn someone like me or you or anyone else into some human stud whose job is to impregnate women. No, what they're going to do is they're going Brave New World on this. The only humans that are going to be created are going to be created in government labs, right? In vitro fertilization. And then they'll take this in vitro fertilized baby, and if they can grow them in a fucking lab from the time that they take a egg and some sperm and put them together, right? Inject it. No messing around. No letting nature take its course. They're going to make sure that the sperm they want goes into the egg they want. They'll grow that, and if they have to use a human mother to do it, I'm sure that they'll have no problem mandating that. You must for society's good, because we made a mistake with the Jim Jones juice, and now 99% of the population is sterile. Whoops. Yeah, so they'll do their government labs, their in vitro fertilization, and unless you think the right way and look a certain way, you're not going to be allowed into the gene pool. That's right. They would love that, folks, to go Brave New World. We have the technology. They have clone technology now, folks. Clone technology. It's not like the movies where they can make, 10 Johns in one day because they have, some basic John bodies out. No, it's not like that. They can't just program all of my thoughts or Bill Gates' thoughts into a new body, but they can genetically clone. They can take somebody's DNA and make multiple units of them, so everyone looks the same. You know how all those Swedish people, they all look alike. That's so racist to talk about Swedes that way. It really upsets me when someone says that about Swedes. They just pick on us because we're such a minority. You Swedes all look alike. You're blonde hair, blue eyes with really big muscles. All right, we got Heidi speaking of the Swedes. Heidi says, what can you tell us about Pandora's Box Group? Nothing. I just don't know about Pandora's box. What I can tell you is I don't want you guys to say, well, I'm part of the Prepared Mind network and we don't believe or listen to anyone else. And this is an open source think tank with all of us as members. Nobody's 100% right. Nobody gets to say this is what we're talking about. That's why I talk about everything. I get information out there that I find. I get information that you find, and we talk about it all. Right? Even with Sunday Night Live at the zoo, that's all of you guys' questions. I have a hard time with groups that are controlled, by people like Fauci or Jim Jones. Right, or some. I'm not a huge fan of people who follow a charismatic leader. It's just there's a lot to risk there. There's a lot at risk, and so I don't know what Pandora's box even is, but you called it a group, and I'm not a big fan of groups like that. It's really a tough thing for me, folks, because I know we need to be in groups. We need to be in prepper groups. We need to have community groups, right? Your state is essentially a group. Your county, your city, they're groups. I have a problem, though, with charismatic leaders or leaders who make demands, warlords. Joe Biden's a fucking warlord. He's got military and police. He's got the FBI, and he's using it to make people do what he wants. That's what a warlord does. And they punish people they don't like. That's what a warlord does. I don't like that. You know, and I have always lived, I grew up and lived believing and being taught that you should question authority to ensure that it is proper authority. You know, no one's perfect. No one is correct 100%. No one is, no one's God. So you should always check. You should always ask. Now, there's times when you won't have time to check and time to ask, like when a bunch of fucking zombie hordes are just pouring down your street and through your neighborhood, basically eating the brains out of everybody. You know, there's not a whole lot of time to question, right? At the same time, I think the necessary action to take in that situation becomes self-evident as zombies, are rushing towards you. Not a lot of time for debate. You stop the enemy. Wow, I tell you, folks, thank you very much, Jolene, for everything. Thank you, everyone, for supporting what we do, for sponsoring us, for making contributions through Patreon, through YouTube, through PayPal, through everything. It's just been one hell of a ride. It's upsetting, it's disappointing, and it is the reality we have to live in. That's why we're preppers. Hey, chance favors the prepared mind is yours. Semper Fi, Godspeed, and I'll be back tomorrow.